Hello, everyone. Welcome to another episode of Truth Lies and the Amazing Benefits of Martial Arts. We are here in Bozeman, Montana, speaking with Robyn Klenk. Robyn Klenk. She's the owner of Gallatin Valley Martial Arts.
That's correct.
Welcome, Robyn. Thanks for talking to us.
Hey, no problem.
All right, so we're going to jump right into it and just try to understand a little bit more about the martial arts world and basically the audience that we're speaking to in this podcast or show. Is the majority of people that just don't do martial arts. They don't practice, they don't train, but they probably have an itching that they want to try because, we're very exposed to martial arts. We have the UFC, there's, it's in the movies, it's everywhere. But basically, my first question to you would be the percentages of participation of martial arts in the U.S. are extremely low. They're less than 3%. Like, you could cut that number in half if you realize that it's mostly kids doing it anyway. So probably less than 1% is adults. And so my question to you is, do you have any comments as to maybe why the participation percentages are so extremely low, even though martial arts has been around in the U.S. for like probably 80, almost 100 years?
Well, I think, first of all, if you have to take a look at what kind of facilities offer martial arts.
Okay.
So, I'll use Bozeman for an example.
Sure.
So we have some very traditional martial arts schools here. You have schools that just teach Taekwondo, they just teach Aikido and, or karate, and
Right.
They're extremely traditional. Then you have your franchise commercial gyms,
Okay.
where you have I Love Kickboxing, you have 9 Round, and they basically teach watered down martial arts.
Okay.
And so it's basically cardio kickboxing, and so you're not really learning a life skill there. But what it is it's not intimidating.
Okay.
And then what you have is real martial arts schools. You have people that teach you mixed martial arts, right? Which is streetwise, practical self-defense. And so I think what happens is some people gravitate towards traditional martial arts because that's what they've heard of since they were a kid.
Right.
Taekwondo.
It's had the most exposure.
Karate.
Right.
Yeah. And
okay.
then it also doesn't seem intimidating.
Right.
And then you look at a place like I Love Kickboxing or 9 Round.
Mm-hmm.
If you're a woman who's trying to lose the last 15 to 20 pounds from the last time she had a kid, or you have low self-confidence, you're scared to go to the real martial arts gym. It's, commercialized and it's safe and it's not scary and you don't think you're going to get hit there. And so what happens is you go in there and you're basically purchasing, in my opinion, a false sense of security.
Yep.
Because they tell you that you're tough and they tell you that you're a kickboxer,
Mm-hmm.
but they give you a decent workout and
Right.
they help you achieve some of the goals and the reasons why you're in there, but you're not really learning a real martial arts. You're not learning a life skill.
Right.
And then
Right.
so I think one of the things that holds people back from martial arts is fear.
Okay.
It's the thing that holds most people back from almost anything that they do in life. It's
Agreed.
fear and vulnerability.
Right.
And so if you take us for an example, our name is Gallatin Valley Martial Arts. What do we teach here? We teach mixed martial arts, but we don't say that,
Okay.
right? You see martial arts and it doesn't seem scary, it doesn't seem intimidating.
I see.
And then you come in and you learn boxing, Muay Thai kickboxing, and jiu-jitsu.
Right.
But I don't have to tell you that. You just know it's martial arts and you'll get a good workout and it's not scary then. If I said Gallatin Valley MMA, I guarantee you that the demographic that would reach out to me would be different than the one that does.
I definitely agree on that. You've obviously put out a lot of thought into how this was going to work. Mm-hmm. And that leads me to the next question, which is optics, business optics, right? So, everything from the way that your building looks to the way that the inside of the school looks to the uniforms that you wear, all that. So I want to go into the optics part of this discussion. Do you feel at all that maybe the optics of martial arts, the business industry end of it, is maybe not that inviting to the majority of people? Obviously, your place is very inviting to us, but as we've traveled across the country, we've noticed and seen that a lot of schools are not very inviting. And I've been doing this my whole life, and even I don't want to go in. And so I figure if I was a person that has never done martial arts before, and this is the place that I'm walking into, not your place, but some of these other places that are not as inviting, they're not going to do it. So that would obviously cause the participation percentages to be low. But do you have any comments on the optics of martial arts, or the business?
Well, I think appearance is extremely important. When you walk in our door, we have high ceilings It's very bright in here. We have excellent lighting. We have top of the line mats, top of the line equipment.
Okay.
And you'll notice it's extremely clean. You know, cleanliness is extremely important from like a lot of different standpoints. You'll notice when you walk in, my gym doesn't smell.
Right.
It doesn't smell at all.
Right.
And all that takes effort and discipline. And so sometimes I think that some people, if their experience in martial arts was a gym that was not like that, they have set themselves the standard that they're going to follow.
Okay.
Right? And so, you know, it's the same thing with the gym culture. It has to be a standard that's set.
Okay.
And so the standard that I choose to set is one of high quality.
Yeah.
And so, but then that takes an immense amount of discipline. So when you look at our school, when our equipment starts to have issues, it gets thrown in the trash and we buy new equipment.
Okay.
All of our equipment is uniform because I can't stand the look of something being mismatched, right? Because that to me sends a message too.
Yeah.
And so it's investing the money back into the program so that you have a quality appearance.
Right.
But then every night this place gets completely cleaned. So our floors, our mats get disinfected, our concrete floors get disinfected. They're concrete and not carpet so that they're easy to keep perfectly clean.
Right.
After every single class, whether it's a kid's class or an adult class, our equipment gets wiped down and disinfected. We've never had ringworm. We've never had funk. Our school doesn't smell.
No, it's awesome. It's definitely a nice place.
If we have an issue with something, we fix it immediately. And part of that is discipline, which is what martial arts is all about.
Right, exactly.
And then taking pride in what we've built. And so if you as the owner set that standard and then you build a community of people that share that same feeling and that same standard, then it becomes habit and culture to keep your gym nice, you know?
Right.
Well, I have people we love drop-ins. People come and stop in here, and that's the nice thing about Bozeman is that you're so close to Yellowstone and you're the gateway to the West, and it's beautiful.
Right.
We get people from all over the place and the country and the world that come here, and they'll drop in and train, and they're always like, wow, your facility is so clean.
Yeah.
I wear that like a badge of honor.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, my other question was, you must have done a lot of homework as to not only where you wanted to put the school, but also what kind of a building you were either going to lease, rent, or buy. And how did that process go? You must have put some work into that.
Well, yeah. So when I moved to Bozeman 5 years ago, I knew that this area specifically was lacking in high quality martial arts.
Okay.
And so for me, I set out to build it.
Okay.
And so it was probably 14 to 18 months of me working really hard on a business plan, of me doing my due diligence, of me making sure that I had a good understanding of the community here, what it needed, what it lacked, what it would support, understanding my competition, you know, and then I think this place was probably like my fourth location that I had looked at. And then also, you know, so I don't own this location, but I paid to build it out, and I have an excellent landlord who's like a great guy, who that's also like a fantastic relationship. You have to have good relationships with people like that. And then found that this was my home.
Gotcha.
You know? So we built out the gym.
Okay.
But there was a huge amount of upfront work that went into this building before we became.
Yeah, I mean, it definitely shows. It definitely shows that you put a lot of work into it, and that's why we were really impressed when we came in, because I had no idea. We both had no idea, but I especially had no idea what I was going to be running into from one state to the next, one city to the next, when it came to the optics of these schools, martial arts, the optics of the instructors. I mean, all of it. I mean, I had no idea. I speculated. I had an idea, but I mean, you know, it was very one-sided because I lived on the East Coast my whole life, and I'd only lived in Michigan and Florida, so very limited assumptions that I had about what the martial arts world actually looked like across the country. And so I have been very wrong in a lot of things, and I've been very right in a lot of things. But some of the things that have been standing out the most is that the majority of these schools don't look nearly as nice as yours, and some of them are nice. I mean, they do look nice, but you can tell that like for instance, some schools that we walk into, or just even look in the window, it looks like they could pick up and leave in a day. You know, it's like, you know, they have the cheapest mats possible. They have the cheapest folding chairs from Costco. I mean, it looks like they bought their school in a box and just put it out there. And so, you know, I'm thinking to myself, well, if this is what it looks like to me, what does it look like to the rest of the public? And if they had a choice between coming to a school like yours, which looks incredible, or the other school, they're going to come here. And that's just based on optics alone. We're not even talking instruction quality or anything else. And so,
not to change tabs.
Yeah, go ahead.
But
she's going to jump in sometimes because I really want her to talk to you about.
How did you end up in the mixed martial arts world? Like you had said before, it's just like being a female in a male-dominated world. Like, how did you come to this juncture of your life and start this school in particular?
Definitely.
So, to backtrack kind of far, so I started doing traditional martial arts when I was 3. And I did traditional martial arts until, I got my first black belt when I was 9. And I did traditional martial arts until like early teenage years. And so what I was going to tell you before is that I had an incident when I was like 13, 14 years old.
Okay.
Where someone tried to kidnap me. And so when I teach women self-defense seminars, I tell that whole story.
Wow.
And so what happened was this, I'll just give you the quick idea of it.
Sure,
but this guy pursued me on foot. And it made me realize that had he actually gotten a hold of me, after having spent my entire life in martial arts, I probably wouldn't have been able to defend myself very well. And so I spent my entire life learning karate, which means that I have no idea how to handle myself on the ground, especially against an adult male.
Right.
And, you know, the things that they teach you, and it's no knock against traditional martial arts. I mean, that's where my true love of martial arts springs from.
Right.
But it's not always necessarily practical, and it's not necessarily streetwise.
Right.
And so I don't think that I would have been able to defend myself very well. And so I became very disenchanted with traditional martial arts. And what I really wanted to learn was something that was more aggressive, more streetwise. I wanted to learn MMA.
Right.
But it wasn't available to me for the next few years. So in my early 20s, I started to train in MMA. And I had tried out a couple schools. I found a place that I really liked. And so pretty quickly I started to compete in jiu-jitsu, competed in like Naga and Grappler's Quest.
Sure.
And then I started to box in the Pennsylvania Golden Gloves because I'm from the northern suburbs of Philadelphia.
Yeah.
So I boxed in Golden Gloves, and then I started to compete in Muay Thai.
Very cool.
Which is really my bread and butter.
Right.
And so then as an amateur fighter, I held 3 domestic titles and 1 international title. And I defended those for up to like 7 years. Never once gave up a title defense. I fought in New York, New Jersey, Pennsylvania, Delaware, Virginia, Florida. And I trained and fought professionally in Thailand. Very cool.
What camp, were you at a camp in Thailand, or were you?
So I have you ever heard of Sylvie Van Du Plessis?
Mm-hmm.
That's Sylvie right there.
Oh, how about that? Cool.
So I know Sylvie from back in the day before she was like a living Muay Thai legend.
Yeah.
We used to spend quite a bit of time training together. So the first time I went over, I stayed with her when she was up in Chiang Mai. So I trained at Lana with her for a month. And then 2 years later, I went down when she was where she is now. She was with Petra Narong, but also was training at Umi Kun. And so I went and stayed there with her for a month and trained at Petra Narong and Umi Kun. And I've since gone back and spent time in Bangkok and then gone back to Chiang Mai and stuff.
Wow, very, very cool.
So did you have a school when you were over in Philadelphia, or is this your first school?
This is the first school that I've ever owned.
So what inspired you to start?
Well, when I moved here, there was martial arts schools here, but nothing I think that shared the same vision that I did, nothing that supported the same gym culture that I believe in.
Yeah.
And so if I wanted to have that experience, then I needed to make it. And so that's really what I set out to do.
Yeah, because this school looks like it's not your first time at the rodeo. You know, it looks like you've, you know, and the reason why I bring that up is because I've been to schools, both personally and professionally, where, you know, these guys have been in business for 30, 40 years, and they've had multiple schools, and it doesn't look like it. It looks like it was their first time. And so that's why I brought up the optics issue, is that, you know.
Well, to give you a little bit of background information on me, so I spent 14 years in business development.
Okay.
And so I worked for like 2 global companies, and I did global marketing, and I did sales. And so I have a really strong background in sales and marketing.
Okay.
And which is funny because I don't sell anything here. I just have a really solid program and it sells itself.
Right.
Like when I sit down and talk to people, they come in and they train and we sit down. I don't sell them anything. I just ask them how did they like class.
Right.
I have a certain way that I talk to people, but I don't sell them anything. I don't have people sign big contracts. I'm not the most expensive place in town. My program sells itself. Right. Which is nice.
No, it definitely did. I mean, as soon as we came in, we were like, we want to take. We had no idea. Like I said before, we don't know what we're going to run into. We go to schools and we see from the outside, and we're like, maybe we'll do a trial class just to either get a workout in or learn what they do or whatever. But for the most part, it's been very off-putting, but not here, and which is one of the main reasons why I told Casey, I said it'd be really good to interview her and talk to her about it, because there's something that you're obviously doing here that I feel could be, there's a philosophy, a business philosophy that I feel could be definitely carried over to a lot of schools that definitely need the advice, because the way that a lot of these other schools are operating would even turn me away. And I feel like, well, I'm pretty non-judgmental because I've been doing it for so long. I just know I can train at the dirtiest school or the cleanest school. I'm indifferent at this point.
Well, I'm the same way. So yeah. I mean, you go to Thailand, you're in bare feet, you train on concrete, you're hitting bags that are masking tape together and a million years old. You know, and so having been in business, when I would travel around the country, I'd always drop in and always train at gyms. Yeah. And so, and I've had lackluster experiences doing that, and I've had pretty decent experiences doing that. For me, I think the appearance in here is really driven by what I feel martial arts should be. Okay. When one of my students leaves and they move someplace else and they go, what should I look for in martial arts school? Okay. I always give them a list. Okay. I go, make sure it's clean. Right. Make sure that you do your research on the instructors and make sure that they have experience and that they have actual resume that they can back up what they say their experience is. Right. I always say make sure you look for women. You need to have diversity in a gym. You need to have women, children, kids in order for it to really be a place that's more than just punching or kicking. Okay. Usually stay away from commercial places, and stay away from fight gyms. Okay. You got to find a gym that has a matching mentality for what you're looking for. Yeah, and that's something. I'm glad you brought that up because that's something I want to bring up in the book, which is the fight gym. The fight gym business, where it doesn't really. I mean, they try to tell you or they try to sell you or whatever that everybody can come in and do it, and I get that, and they can. But at the same time, that's a fight gym. And a lot of these fight gyms are not very inviting to an individual who's never thrown a punch. And that's something I definitely want to discuss further, both in the book and with... Well, they can say that that's what they want, but they don't have a culture that supports that.
But you have a very nice... diverse clientele.
Yeah, it's a very inviting culture.
And so how do you get people that are brand new to martial arts and haven't thrown a punch, and then you have your experienced fight team and all that things, how do you get those new people to look at that and be inspired by it and not intimidated by it?
It's really in the way that you explain it to them, right? So when you have somebody who comes in the door and they've never thrown a punch and you know that they're intimidated, the first thing you do is you have a culture that's inviting to them, that sets them at ease, right? And then you talk to them and you tell them that there's no expectations from them. Right? Okay. You just need them to do their best and have fun. That's really what it's about. And then what I do is I set the expectation and then I live up to it. And so when you came in and took fundamentals class on Friday night with Coach Rob, a class like that, fundamentals class, can have everything in it from somebody who's never thrown a punch to a professional fighter. Okay. And so what happens is the person who's never doesn't have any experience, they've never thrown a punch, they get pulled to the side. They do the warm-up like everybody else. They do the secondary warm-up like everybody else. And then you have instructors, or I can even hustle it and do it myself. You pull them to the side, and they essentially get a private lesson while the rest of the class takes class. And then what you teach is tiered to the level of the people in the class. And so that's it sounds easier than it is. It takes a lot of experience and practice doing it. Right.
Actually, when we talked to Coach Rob, he had mentioned that he had spent 6 months just doing instructing classes with him.
Mm-hmm.
And so do you do that with all your instructors?
Oh, yeah.
They go through a strict instructor program?
Big time.
Yeah.
They're all martial artists, but being a martial artist is a very separate skill from being an instructor. Big time.
Yeah, I wish that more people actually focused on that, because this is the first time that we've heard of anybody having a specific, except for.
Well, I know Francis Fong does it. It was less than a handful of schools who actually followed that philosophy. The other
to have a standard for your instructors and to have it laid out. This is how you educate your clients.
And so we talk a lot. We still have like instructor meetings, and we still check in all the time. And so they understand what my expectations are, but I put them in a position to be able to fill my expectations. I never set anybody up for failure. And it's the same thing with the new student who walks in.
Sure.
I make sure that they're successful. If you come in and you do something that's scary, that makes you nervous, that I know you've looked at my website 40 times, you've thought about emailing me 4 times, and finally you got here, I'm not going to make your worst nightmares come true.
Sure.
I'm going to make sure that it's a fantastic experience for you, so that you come back.
Yeah.
And then that's the only way that you can build someone's confidence, is that you have to put them in a position of vulnerability and then give them the skills to be successful. And then when they're successful, they have growth. And growth is what makes people come back, right? When you progress, when you get good at something.
Exactly.